Hi everyone, Steve here, introducing you HS-P2 from AIWA. The HS-P2 from AIWA is the early model of a cassette boy. You might probably notice the AIWA has make several changes to their logo because in fact, in late 1980s or in early 1990s, Sony actually purchased most majority of the stock from the AIWA, and Sony kind of make AIWA their like second-handed audio and audio maker. So AIWA in 1990s they still make Walkmans, but it's no longer cassette boy nor the all capital four letters of AIWA. They make it into they make it into a smaller case of the AIWA. And nowadays you might probably notice AIWA still making like headphones, Bluetooth headphones, but those products aren't just as brilliant as the original AIWA used to be. So let's take a look at this beautiful, gorgeous machine, the HS-P2. The the modeling number and modeling letters of AIWA is really a bit confusing, but normally if you see P, the letter behind the HS is start with P. You can notice that, or you can take it like this a playback only model. And when you see an R, start with R, I guess is R for recording, and you might presume that's a recording model. So you can see as a really big letter in writing in blue say auto reverse. Yes, this is a early auto reverse function model. And auto reverse since the first model of Sony's auto reverse Walkman, the WN7, which is the mechanical one, but it wasn't really I mean, aesthetically, the Sony WN7 is a beautiful machine, but mechanically speaking, I wasn't really quite satisfied with the audio quality and the steadiness of the belt mechanical system. We know the cassette mechanism. The heart of the mechanism is the motor, and to the flywheel, to the capstan, and they all transmitted by belt. In 1890s, or like in the previous day, they make higher quality rubber belts, but nowadays those rubber belts are not just as the same quality as the same quality control like they used to be. They probably made in China or other countries. They are definitely not made in Japan. If you can still find some made in Japan belts, original parts, they probably were going to be expensive, and not to mention they were probably already worn out by the day, because rubbers they can distinct this they tend to like break themselves. So let's take a look on the side panel, which is the main control panel of the HS-P2. Playback button is this one. So they labeled the long one as the play and the short one as stop or eject. So when you press down the eject button, is actually you're going to launch this little tiny tab here, so it can pry out the cassette for you. So to insert it, you have to. There's no cassette insert guides on the door plate, so you have to put in the cassette face down. It's not face down, just put it in sideways, and you have to give it a press, so it can be like this. You have to push down to this metal tab, which is the cassette pressurizer, and give it a big push and close it. And another interesting part of this machine is the fast forward and reverse. You can see it's not just like the normal button or those piano button machine. It's actually a switch. It's a two-way switch. And this button is labeled reverse, is for flip the side. Once the button is pressed, it varies the playback direction like this. And you can also select your metal or normal type of cassette. And this really interesting part is normally we can only see a pause button or pause switch on a recordable machine, but this one is a playback only. They also have this pause switch. You can just pause it. It's really interesting. And another feature, another function I want to talk about is the NR, the noise reduction. When we talk about noise reduction in cassette industry, one or two names maybe pops in our mind is the Dolby Laboratory. Another one will be DBX. But except for only few models like the Panasonic, the Walkie, or the Way, they used to have one models which have the built-in DBX. Others portable cassette player, they all using Dolby, and most majority Dolby B noise reduction. For some high-end models like the WN701C or the professional WM-D6C, they do have, and the DC2, they do have Dolby C comes within the model. But this one is really interesting. It says noise reduction, but if you turn it back or on the other side, and not this either, they do not have the label they do not have the label of Dolby Laboratory, because normally you see the label says the double D and the logos are the copyright from the Dolby Laboratory. So basically this cassette player manufacturer, they make their own chips, their circuit, their IC circuit, and they got certified by the Dolby Laboratory. So you can, if you ever tear apart, or if you ever seen the inside of a Dolby supported machine, you can see the chips. Sometimes a Toshiba machine can have a Sony noise reduction chip, or Sony can have a Toshiba one. So it's really interesting that they do not specifically make, Adobe does not specifically make those chips or those IC boards themselves. They actually is a certification that manufacturers should earn, just kind of like the high-res the high-res audio label. Not just from Sony. I know they bring it out, Sony bring it out the high-res in the first place, but then other companies, they can make the instruments, or they can make those players, headphones, and getting the certified of a high-res label. So Dolby is basically the same idea. But how's the noise reduction from AIWA? I mean, performance-wise, I mean, they are just, when you turn it on, this like slightly lowers, the noise from the tribal era, if you look at the volume diagram from the right side, which is the tribal part, there's like some reduction on the high-end noise, but it feels more like it just cut down the noise, but it did not emphasize the higher pitch or the higher tone that originally you should have been listening. So normally I turn the noise reduction off only when I'm using some really old tapes, which is really grainy and noisy. I will put the switch on. And don't forget, it also got two headphone ports, A and B, and volume. And the battery compartment, the battery door is actually well designed. So it has a tiny tab here, tiny latch. Once you open, the battery compartment just pop open, and it's made of metal too. So it's a durable machine. It's a really durable machine. Although like 80% of the outer case is made from plastic, and only the battery compartment is made from, I guess, it's aluminum alloy. And there's a hold for your clip to clip on your belt, but unfortunately, my unit doesn't come with that. But except for that, it works fine, and it has a really huge cassette see-through window, and that is something most people wanted. And it's hardly scratched, unlike those acrylic doors or acrylic window get scratched or get tinted, get yellow by time. But on this particular model, the HS-P2, it seems to be fine. Alright, so here's today's HS-P2. Hope you guys like it.